And it continues. So I'm Stephen Walker. I'm very pleased that this thing is continuing. We hosted the first International Day of Celtic Art Conference in Andover, New York, where I live, and I'm so happy that you guys have carried it forward here. So we're lucky to have Steve O'Loughlin coming all the way from Los Angeles to show his contemporary imagery of Celtic art. And he's from Los Angeles. Actually, I think he's from San Francisco.
No, I went to school there.
Whatever. Anyway, from the west coast of the U.S. So anyway, he got an MFA in painting from San Francisco Art Institute, and he started experimenting, incorporating Celtic design into his paintings and drawings. Coming from a fine arts background, he wanted to reflect the world around him, and I will keep this introduction short and let his work and his own words
Sure.
carry this forward. So I give you Steve O'Loughlin.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, good morning, everybody. Like I said, I'm Steve O'Loughlin, all the way from Los Angeles. I just want to say what a great honor it is and thrilled to be around so many other Celtic artists who are incredible, and I look forward to meeting you all and exploring more of this art form that we just love so much. Like I said, I have a fine arts background, and that's what I bring to it because it's expanded over the years. We've seen it grow so much and diversify and amplify into different mediums, and whether it be computer or there's all kinds of ways it's finding application. And I guess we'd start with my own little contribution to it, which is, do we go in there? Oops.
Which is not broadcast.
It's not broadcasting yet.
The
Connor's got it going here.
Not far enough.
There I am. Contemporary images in Celtic art. Years ago, I was involved with the American Celtic Show, which had Cindy Mady, Patrick Gallagher, Michael Carroll, and Jen Deleth. And I had a show that toured around from 2000 to 2011. And it went around the United States. And it was great because it really brought us all together in America to do that. And I got to meet, for the first time, other Celtic artists like I am now. And it was just marvelous that way. All right. Well, one of the way I started out was I was going to college, and I was a freshman, and I was in an art. I've always been an artist, and I had to take a class in medieval art history, which I thought would be the most boring period of art that there could possibly be. But while I was there, the instructor put up the jewelry, and I was so thrilled. And I looked at it, and again, it was in a huge auditorium, and really large. And he showed the details, and I was just fascinated by all the intricacy, beauty, color, and he explained that it was made by what was considered really primitive people back then in wooden and stone huts, and that they were able to produce this incredible work in Scotland and Ireland. And me being of Irish descent, I thought that, wow, I didn't know that even existed. So I went out and I got myself George Bain's book, which at least in my generation, this is where we all started with. And I started copying pictures from the book, starting to clumsily learn the techniques involved in there. And I also started to combine it with other elements of my own, that I saw around me. Coming from the fine arts background, you always want to reflect the world around you. And so I started to do that. So while I was working as a sketch artist, sketching tourists, I would have plenty of town time. I started to draw, and I started to make little sketches, like the Three Stooges, right? And again, this is just a little drawing that I had, and I was just playing with it. And I was living with a magician and a comedian at the time, and so I was, drawn to keep playful like that. There's an American Indian in horseback. Again, just using my fine line Sharpie to make these. And again, just doing a pencil drawing and then come over the top of it with a marker. It was the early 90s, and so the AIDS epidemic was going on, and a friend of ours, Ed Riney, had passed away from it. So I wanted to use this new interlacing of figures, a way of expressing that. So I created this piece in which there's Ed passing away, surrounded by his family and his dog Ollie, and friends of mine. And so again, it's an example of using this abstraction, the zoomorphic abstraction, to tell a narrative. And there I am with more hair, just out sketching and trying to just being fascinated and catching some of the magic of what was going on with Celtic art. So after doing this, I was looking around at other arts and all the galleries, but nobody was doing this kind of work, right? And so I decided I would start to make some paintings. And one of the most iconic ones I first started out was this one here, which is called Freeway Man. And again, living in Los Angeles, you are just scheduling your life around the traffic at times. But again, it's one continuous line that goes all the way around. And again, this started out just as a drawing in my sketchbook. And the original is 5 feet tall by 4 feet wide in oil. And again, I went out and I bought little matchbox cars and used them for reference, and it was kind of fun to do that. But I sort of had this little bit stressed out character sort of commuting as he runs. That was at least what I was thinking about it. There's a nice little detail. There's a little accident in the middle there, But again, you can see, as we all get carried away with the detail, that's not uncommon here. I live right near LAX, and so I'm seeing planes go in and out all the time. And so I thought I would try to do my Celtic version of this technological marble, which many of us got here with. And in it, I kind of did an X-ray, with key patterns and spirals. And then I just interlaced all the passengers in the fuselage together there. And I included my wife and me and my daughter Haley, who had just been born there, and of course the guy using the facilities in the back, so that you want, it's to have some fun with this stuff, and whimsy is part of the whole equation. This piece here is in that same theme of the traffic. I did a series of paintings of this, but this one got on the cover of New Visions of Celtic Art in 98, 99, and boy, was I over the moon when I got the cover. I think that's still one of the high points of artistic adrenaline I had. I was just dancing around like, what? I'm validated, right? And of course, Stephen Walker bought this painting from me, so I want to appreciate that gesture. Here's more fun with, here I'm playing with some space myths. This is alien angel abduction. I was doing a lot of angels in my work, and I kind of mashed it up together and made it into this kind of a fun piece here. This is one of my first early carved wood pieces, which I'll show you some more of later. Okay, this is called remote control. I had wanted to do a painting about television. Of course, I live in a city where that's the industry, right? And so this is back in the 90s, so there was no digital thing. I sat in front of the television, took pictures of the screens, had them developed, and used them for reference. And why combined in with Carnonis, I don't know, but it just seemed to work for me, some idea. And again, in your creative enthusiasms, it just is full of things. Let's see, here's a little detail. You can kind of almost date the television shows from when I was there. But again, just very playful, interlacing some of the figures together, and just getting carried away. So, where are we here? Let's see. So it was 1992, and I witnessed the LA riots. I saw the veneer, that, a veneer is just that thin little thing of a table or whatever, get ripped away, and it was to see my fellow citizens behaving so badly, burning things, looting, and it all being triggered by this police brutality. So again, how you can use, there it is there. How you can use this art form to do personal expression is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. And that's and that's what I want to encourage with some of you out there, is to diversify your content so that it's great for personal expression and adding different imagery into the art form. Here's a little detail, and we were talking about, who was I talking to about? But again, one of the tricks of doing my work is, how do you make the gesture of this zoomorphic figure make sense? And one of the examples I give is like this girl here holding a looted television set there, right? What I'll do too is, like, I have my space there, and I'll do a head and a torso, and then I'll draw in the hands and the feet where I kind of want them to end up, And then I kind of work the knot work around, and it has to be all drawn, because there's no, you base it upon the patterns that you have, but it'll be, that way you end up with the gesture and they communicate the narrative that you want to express this way. So that's one of the techniques, and you'll see it in some of my other work also. All right, here's a piece called the Celtic sundial. The original of this is 6 feet round. I'm so impractical. Why do I? But again, that's part of, at least for me as an artist, I can't help myself. I have a feeling, and an idea pops into my head like the riots, and I feel I need to be expressed. In this one, I grew up in California, and my folks came home from a trip to Mexico City, and they brought this plaster Aztec sundial, and they put it right above our fireplace, right? And I would just stare at that thing, just marveling at the detail and the patterns and the abstraction. And I just loved that thing. And so then when I started doing Celtic art, I thought I would do a Celtic version of it. So in this one, again, so many times just a single thought or a little inspiration turns into a rather ornate and complicated piece of art. And in this one, I was working my quick sketch stand down by a marina in Long Beach. And I was just bored, and I'm watching the coots, or like the mud hens, and they're feeding on algae as they swim around the marina. And I just thought, the algae is really just turning sunlight right into their bodies, right? And giving them physical form to this sun energy. And then along comes the coots, and they're eating that. And so they are taking on that form of sunlight and then we're all got this trapped sunlight inside of us in this physical form. And so I just thought that was the thought, and this is what it turned into. So I started at the center with this abstract sunburst that comes out, and as it comes out, it just reaches out and diversifies all the different forms of life that go on. And again, so many times there's classical definitions of Celtic art, but this is how I use it in my own work. It becomes a personal language to communicate. And also this the mandala being something where something starts in the center and radiates out is something that I use in more of my future work too. There's a little detail, right? Sold this painting to a Chinese pop star many years ago. Thank you. Okay, this is my first stab at the Tree of Life, which is a classical theme. This is an example of my carved wood pieces. It's kind of hard to see, but it's on 2 layers of plywood. And what I do is all the black lines, because so many times in Celtic art you're dealing with these dark lines, right? And I had the inspiration to start carving them. So I get a piece of plywood, and I have a router, which is a tool that drives around and has a little bit, and I carve all the black lines into the piece, into the wood, right? Then I paint it all black, so all the lines are black, and then I belt sand it up, and the lightness of the wood comes back, and then I paint that on top of that. And sometimes this one's two layered because it has a background and a foreground. But again, you see these spirit figures acting out sort of the cycle of life around the tree there. And in the bottom, we have an early skeleton mine. So creating this connection between life and death, and along with this abstraction. All right, so here we go. Growing up in California, I was exposed to a lot of Latino culture. And when I moved to LA, it even got more intensified that way. And I came across the Day of the Dead celebration. And it's such a fun, whimsical, it's right around Halloween too. And so it's where all the dead relatives can come back and have a visit. And so they often depict skeletons in all kinds of different activities of life in there. And so I just thought it was great, and I started to interlace the skeletons together. I just thought it was fun, and it turned into this lovely piece here. There's a nice detail of it. Again, it's a good example of showing how I use the gesture to communicate the figure. You know what I mean? I'll start out with the torso and the head and the placement, and then I'll find out whatever gesture it needs to be, including which I thought was funny. In the lower left, you have the CPR being applied there. And the other thing, I'm going to talk a lot about contemporary imagery in Celtic art. But one of the things that you also have is you have this cross culture, this combining of Celtic art with other elements here. And I should read what I say here because I want to be clear about it. Culture diversity is really important, and that's what we're all about. This certain genre that we go through, but equally, if not more important, are the things that we have together. We all laugh, we all cry, we all hug our babies. It is a shared human experience. By combining different cultural traditions, we reinforce what we have in common and can promote mutual understanding and tolerance. So that's why I think that it's important to bring in new elements to it so that can be a cross-pollination and a bringing together of things that seem very different. But so often with Aztec and Mayan art, is there something that they have in common, which is this great fascination with line pattern, abstraction, and color. And I think, as you can even see with my work, there's a Latino color palette that I just grew up with. I just couldn't help myself. Here's a 7-foot piece. Again, this is a big carved wood piece. And in this piece, like I talked about the mandalas before, at the center of this one is sort of spiritual energy, right? And so I just can't believe the things you think up, and then you want to try to manifest it into a piece of art. And in this one, here's the spiritual energy comes from the center, breaks into kind of the green fire of life. And that is it, at least is what I was thinking, was that these large kind of spirit figures break into pair of opposites, of good and bad and light and dark and all these diversity things. And then so it's this, rather than being sun energy, it's spiritual energy that manifests itself in multitudes of different forms. And so that was the intent behind this piece, and it's still kind of a stunning thing to see and a lot of fun. All right, so back to 2011, 2012, I was able to participate in the Day of the Dead celebration at the Hollywood Forever Museum, a cemetery. And so what it is they have it's a one-day event, and families come to the graveyard and they set up shrines in different grave sites to honor their relatives. And everybody's getting dressed up with a death mask and stylish and sexy and ugly and the whole range of things that go on. And so we were able to exhibit it, took place inside the mausoleum, and it was really lovely because they took lights and the lights would change colors on your work. And so you can kind of get some of the scale of some of the work that I had there. And as all the people were droving past, it was just a packed event, I was able to take lots of pictures of people dressed up in front of my work there. You get a size of the scale there, right? And so it's just fun to, and silly, right? To have that experience. It was just a great thing to do. Here notice again, here he is. This one I'd gone to New York for the American Celtic show, and I just saw some artwork there that inspired me, and I just wanted to do a big piece. This one's like 7 feet tall and all carved in wood, but I really liked the color sense that came out in this one, which I was really pleased with. There's a little detail. Again, for a while, they still show up these little kind of spirit people with halos. And I use them just, again, as an abstract thing, but also sort of just as spirit energy, right? Here's a piece. This is called Four Celts. And, Ed was here earlier talking about doing computer graphics and using it to make the art. And I know lots of you do that too. And I use Photoshop in my composing too. But back in 96, I was talking to Jen Dellett, who was also in the American Celtic show, and she was telling me how she was catching grief from some people because she was working on the computer. That bugaboo has been dispelled some, but I thought that was really ridiculous, that there should be some sort of, this is the only way you can do this type of work, with a brush or a pen or a stone or whatever. And so I created this piece, and on the top, you see there's a monk doing a manuscript. To the left, there's Jen working on the computer, and she kind of has telephones around there because I talked to her on the phone. On the bottom, you have your Bronze Age Celtic metalworker taking place there. And on the right, there I am carving in wood, right? Because I was doing these wood carvings. And they're all woven together in this continuum of using this art form, as we all are here also in this room. And I just wanted to pay honor to that, and also to promote, as it moves forward, the diversity of mediums and expressions. What's next? Okay. I did this painting for the show here, for this conference, because I said, oh, you better do something new, Steve. I don't want to be Mr. Tired and Old. And so I was, recently, I've been incorporating new elements into my work. And so in this one, I used that mirror that from England. It has a beautiful background there and as a halo. And so, because, looking at you and yourself, no matter what the technology, is always going to be popular, right? And so this is a good example of that, and using a little bit more of the abstract background, which I've been playing with, and all kinds of little figures dancing about. All right, there's another wood piece. This is a music session. Back in the early 90s, my wife made the mistake of buying me a tin whistle. And at the time, I was an artist, and I literally had blinders on, like, you cannot, I'm a painter, you got this thing, right? And so she bought it for me, and I would have never purchased it myself. I had been listening to the music for years. She was in Chicago visiting family. Oh, there's an Irish import. See, let's get Steve a whistle, right? And so then I started playing it, and I found out that I had some musical abilities that I didn't know I had. And so as and I often tell younger kids, or even you out here, is that we all have so many more talents and abilities inside us, and you just got to say yes to it sometimes. So this is I started going to sessions, and then I joined a band. I've been fronting a band for like 24 years now, which I could have never imagined. But it's a great release, because usually I'm working alone, right? It becomes more social, and it's just fun. And in this one, these are friends of mine, all at a session having a good old time. I got carried away with the music and learned lots of tunes on the freeway as I was commuting to work. I do not recommend this. It's unsafe. I don't do it anymore. But again, bringing in the contemporary theme, there I am in my old white Toyota pickup, driving down the 405 at excessive speed, learning, lark in the morning or something. And so, and again, I use this one, a part of this painting for my band, the Paredes CD we put out in 2020. And so it's been great fun to play the music, and also just to, once in a while I'll do a musical piece. So there's a couple of them there. What do we have next here? All right, this is one of my early wood pieces. You can kind of see there's two levels there. And I talked about doing angels, which I do make a lot of. And in this one, I just, when I was in Catholic schools, the nuns told us that we had guardian angels. And I just thought that was this most special, wonderful thing. And late at night, I would be calmed down by thinking, oh, I'm scared, it's dark. And I would think of my guardian angel. It would kind of calm me down. And I would think of how, well, he's watching me. Why don't I have this watch my family too? So I would send a guardian angel there, send to my, to my families and my friends and the girl I had a crush on down the street, right? And so it just became that. In a way, it's a game, but it's also a way of making a manifest, a personification of that emotion and spiritual energy inside of us all. And so I use this here, and it's a great. So anyway, let's go. So anyway, quickly, in 2007, I was at the Irish Art Fair, and the woman talked to me there, said that, are you going to do a piece about the famine? And I said, oh, that sounds really depressing. But I thought, and like Aiden's piece reminded me too of finding a way to tell a complex story. And so I put all these images around the outside of this coffin form. On the outside, there's famine scene. There's immigration scenes and a Celtic cross. And on the inside is an interlaced famine victims with some other famine scenes inside. There's some other examples of it there. And it's just, it was a really difficult piece to make. It was I read up on it all. And my own great-great-grandfather, Dennis Laughlin, came over during the famine. So I had heard family stories, and so it was great to act that out. There's another example of public art with Celtic art, and there's the angel forms being used again for this project I did for the city. Right near LAX where I lived, I took that Celtic pattern, put it around these utility boxes. It's very nice. There's another example of, I was commissioned by Mary Glasspool, a bishop in LA, to do, and she just kind of let me do what I wanted, and so I created this one. The one on the left is an interfaith angel, and the one on the right is a Christian angel. And there's an example of me sticking it on the front of a church. I had those, the originals are 6 feet tall, but I just had them printed onto wood, and they're out there. And again, this leads me to what I consider to be my greatest piece of art, and I keep having it grow. And the Holy Nativity Church is right down the street from me, and so Father Peter Rood there we hit it off, and we were great friends. And so I created this piece for the church. This is Our Lady of LAX, and I just took pictures from all the different people at the congregation. And they're having a blessing of the animals ceremony going on there with a Madonna and child and LAX in the background, right? And there's the Celtic elements there, right? Besides the knotwork, we have some angels there above, all knotted up. And so this was on the side of the church, and I was staring at the altarpiece, and I was just drooling. Oh, now I'm in the liturgical thing. And so we eventually created, there's Father Peter and I in my studio. You get an idea of the size. And there's another little thing of my studio under work. A lot of times with these big pieces, I'll do panels, carve them, and then you assemble them in place. But there is the Holy Nativity triptych that we did. That existing crucifix, you see the size of Our Lady of LAX to the left. There as it is with the doors open, we created a false wall in front of the existing crucifix from 1945, and I put a Celtic cross around it, and it was just marvelous to, come back from the little altar boy I used to be and really translate that spiritual Christian energy through myself, and use my own creativity. And on the side doors, there are images from the life of Christ. When you close the door, there's a giant tree of life. And this is my next attempted tree of life. And again, it comes with that mandala theme again, where at the center, that spiritual energy bursts forth into all the different physical manifestations. And you know, one of my spiritual beliefs, if you're going to make a spiritual statement, everything has to be included in it. It has to be every technology and everything. So it's a real mishmash of all kinds of things. There's a nice detail of it. You can see all kinds. I think of Aiden's work, you've got a lot of busy things going on there too. And there's my version, including whales and planes. A little detail. These are the side things I added later. Again, you see these haloed birds show up in my work all the time. This is where they started at. And so anyway, in closing, again, thanks everybody for having me there. There I am putting some final touches on it. It's been great. I'm looking forward to visiting with you and picking your brains. And again, thanks everybody for putting it on. Thank you.